All right, this is WNTBD Today, and we are live.
Thank you. Greetings and welcome back to What Needs to Be Done Today, also known as WNTBD Today Network. This podcast is sponsored by the MAAT American Aborigine Tribal Nation. Peace and love to our wonderful podcast team, all of you who joined us today and those who will watch this video later. Continuing on this month, we're celebrating our patriarchs in honor of Father's Day with the podcast, The Patriarch Speaks. Today's special guest speaker is Chief Representative of the Moorish Republic Nation, Menace Ankh. He is another wonderful patriarch. Chief Menace, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I don't know what to say. Thank you for the introduction. I'm Menace Ankh, Chief Representative of the Moorish Republic. We are basically moving in an international manner, like dealing with treaties and international standards and laws to try to remove ourselves or separate ourselves from the United States as we once were, the colonial United States as we once were. Right now, I filed a suit in the International Court of Justice based on treaty violations, human rights treaties violations by other people. Hold on just a second. I'm in my store right now, so I had some customers come in real quick. So I'll be right back with you in a hot second.
All right, thank you. I'll be right back, everyone.
In the meantime, how is everybody today? Carmela, how are you?
Well, I was just getting ready to say good morning, family. How are you?
Good morning.
And Boniface, how are you today?
Greetings, Boniface.
Oh,
Happy to see you.
peace.
I am doing fantastic. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. How you all doing?
We're doing great.
Greetings, Sister Janaya. All right, Chief Menace, when you're ready, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. I'm industrious.
Beautiful, no problem.
I filed a suit in the International Court of Justice based on human rights treaties violations, and I've gotten an email back from them referring to the complaint, and basically they're telling me that they're swamped, but we're going to see. I've got recordings where I've talked to the Human Rights Commission. I've got recordings where I've talked to the International Court of Justice. I also filed a complaint with the UN Human Rights Commission. That the email also addressed that. But right now, is with all of this stuff going on in the world right now, I'm figuring it's pretty much it's going to be a waiting game. Yeah, here shortly, I'm planning on getting back in touch with them and finding out, what's going on and is there any progress being made on it? Because yeah, I'm not wanting to sit and wait for that. So yeah, that's in a nutshell. That's essentially what we're doing. We also try to assist nationals of the Moorish Republic with problems that they have with their local colonial governments. Right now, we got a few situations going on where it's hard to fathom the thought processes that some of these people have. Yeah, in a nutshell, that's pretty much what we're doing right now. I have a book out. It's called The Apocalypse of a Moor, and it basically lays out uh, what happened to us and how they tricked us into believing that we were somehow made into U.S. citizens or something like that. And it lays out all of the court cases. It lays out the congressional records. Everything that's said in that book is from them. It's not; these aren't my words. Yes, there are some of my words in it, but when I reference certain things, I use their words. These are the words of the U.S. Supreme Court. Like I said, the congressional records. So those are the things that we are um, basing our fight on. It's just basically because a lot of people now have, as well as myself, back in 2010, got caught up in this sovereign citizen tactics and all of those things. And I came to a realization that, and I came to this realization while I was being prosecuted for financially intimidating the police. Um, I came to this conclusion when they would not follow their own laws. Uh, they would not answer any challenges to their authority, to their jurisdiction, all kinds of things, and they basically just they have. I don't want to say the authority. They have the power right now to disregard all of that. Um, and there's several reasons for that, but most of those reasons fall on us. Um, but through the whole, well, I was down for 8 years. Um, for the first 2 years, that's what I was trying to straw man the birth certificate. Um, I've got UCC1 statements out of butt, affidavits, all of that, and they ignored all of it. Um, and then I that's when I decided to go a little deeper with my studies, and I found out that um, well, okay. First thing I found someone showed me where the congressional record was that says that we are we the people of the United States. Um, but with that said, that created that wordplay, and it's true. I did find that in the congressional records. Um, we the people. We are the ones who ordained the Constitution, ordained and established the Constitution for them. This is where the confusion comes in. We already had governments. We already had nations. We had all of that. That's how we showed them how to get together, get themselves together. Um, so when you have us, the United States, we the people of the United States, that was talking about the several nations of people who were in that United States. They, in this congressional record, or if you know the preamble of the Constitution, it says, "We, the people of the United States, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America." Now, this is where the wordplay comes in. We were the United States. They were the United States of America. And when you in that congressional record, they're talking about the people who ordained the Constitution, and they specifically say that the Negroes ordained the Constitution. They say that. That's not verbatim, but they say that. Um, with that, that's how we're approaching the situation now, as opposed to, oh, I'm the living human being, I'm this and that. Well, being that, it still doesn't. Okay, Dr. John Henry Clark. I got a video. This is on my website and on my YouTube page. He spoke about nationality at one point, and he said that we were the only race of people, or the only nation of people, or group of people who don't have a nationality. And he spoke about how nationality connects you to a piece of land. How that connects you to a piece of land. In even before the Europeans escaped out of the caves of Europe, there were boundaries, there were nationalities, and this piece of land was connected to, let's say, Ghana. They're called Ghanaians, Malians, Nigerians. Their nationalities connect them to those pieces of land. So you come to the Western Hemisphere, you have the Chileans, you have the Brazilians, you have all of the Nicaraguans, you have all of these people who are connected with the piece of land that they stem from. Even though they're here, they're already Americans. The indigenous people on this Western Hemisphere, the indigenous people are the only Americans. America is not a nation state. It is a continent with, I think, 36 nation states on it. So when these foreigners immigrate to the United States, excuse me, one second, excuse me. When these foreigners immigrate to the United States, they don't become Americans because they're already Americans. They become, Mexican U.S. citizens. They're already Mexican Americans because they're part of the continent. The Chileans, they don't become Chilean Americans. They become Chilean U.S. citizens. That's the word play that they use. And a lot of people have gotten caught up in that word play, and they basically tried to hijack the word American as a nationality, because they don't have a nationality either. That's where our situations differ. We're at home with no nationality, where we can unite and group. They are thousands of miles away from where they originated with their nationalities, and they expatriated from their prospective countries, from their prospective nations, and joined the corporations. But they failed to give themselves a nationality, so they tried to hijack the word American. I don't that if you want to go back to immigration or what's going on now, and I told a few people this. I said Donald Trump is about to expose the fraud of the 14th Amendment. And it essentially, basically, we could not be U.S. citizens because this is our land. There's no way that we could be U.S. citizens. So without an application to be a U.S. citizen, and this is said, if you look up, there are two court cases where they specifically say this. One is called the slaughterhouse cases. They specifically say this. And the other one is called Maxwell versus Dow. And what they say is that the 14th Amendment was intended to grant citizenship to the Negroes, but the immigration and naturalization laws were not created until 2 years later. So they excuse me, they tried to make it seem like, oh, you were born here, so you're one of us. Well, that also goes against the international laws at the time and now. You can't come from a foreign land, war with us, and then say that we are part of you or you are part of us. You will always be an enemy. That's what the Supreme Court said. They were saying it about someone else, but that is true in their instance too. So it's called forced assimilation. That's also in the treaties. That's also in the human rights treaties. And now I see a lot of people talking about the Declaration of Human Rights and all of that. Okay, now the declarations are good. That's fine. But they hold no power. They hold no force. The treaties are the only thing that hold force because there's a signature. This is a contract. This is an agreement. The declarations are just what they say they are. They are declarations. Just like the Emancipation Proclamation didn't free the slaves, the 13th Amendment is what freed the slaves per se. So when you're talking about the Declaration of Human Rights, Declaration on the Rights of the Child, these are only just declarations. There are no laws in place to enforce that. So once you talk about the treaties, now you can look up the treaties and find which treaties were ratified and which treaties were not. The treaties that are ratified, those are the ones that hold up to Article 6 of the Constitution, because they're treaties where it says the treaties and the laws of the United States, all that is law of the land. Well, those treaties are law of the land. You can go to the UN site and you will see that they have signatures on those treaties, and they will tell you when those treaties were ratified by the United States. So those are what everyone is supposed to be enforcing, but we have to enforce it as one nation, as one people. Because other than that, if everyone is trying to do their own thing and stay singular, and I want to do this and I want to do this, and I don't like the way you said that or do this, then we always going to be this. That was our downfall in the beginning. If you look at the story of Chief Tecumseh, he was trying to get the nations to come together because he seen what was coming. Nobody wanted to join. Everybody wanted to do their own thing. Nobody wanted to unite. Everybody wanted to do their own thing. And subsequently, divide and conquer happened. And that's what happened. Yeah, okay, I helped, the Europeans helped me get rid of my enemies. But in the end, they were still the enemy. So when I had no one else to help me, then I was next. Okay, you get on out of here, or you slaves too. You're not a Pequot anymore. You're a Negro. You're not a Wyandotte anymore. You're a Negro. So, that's how things happen. So and it's playing out. The same thing is playing out right before our eyes, but there are so many distractions that we don't see it. So, that's how we're approaching the situation is basically through the enforcement of treaties, as opposed to, because we don't have any rights under their constitution. It's not our constitution. We had our own governments. So when you start enforcing my Fourth, Fifth Amendment rights and all of that, we're not U.S. citizens, never were. So we're not state citizens, never have been. That's Dred Scott. So why are we consistently, continuously trying to enforce a constitution that is not ours? We have no rights under their constitution. That's where everything happens at. I was looking up the civil rights laws. When you look up the actual statutes at large related to the United States Code, they don't say none of that. They don't say, the statutes at large don't say a lot of what United States Code is. And it's the statutes at large that are law. It's not United States Code. So, I mean, when you get to that level and you find out that none of this really means anything to them because they're enforcing administrative law. And I had a judge tell me this: statutory law, administrative law, they're the same thing. So they know what they're enforcing. And in my fight, I've brought these people to the Supreme Court 6 times. And in that fight, from the state to the federal courts, they will not allow us to challenge their authority to rule over us. Everybody says, oh, they don't have jurisdiction and all that, which is true. This is true. But if you're good, I can't fight it by myself. I learned that in prison. No one here can fight it by themselves.
No shame.
And for example, as an example, I'll give you, which she's a national of the Moorish Republic, but she's also my tribal nation member as well as me. Melo is a national of the Moorish Republic. Tracy is as well. So, an example, Shatika Bay. She had a traffic ticket. It was a traffic ticket. But there was something else with it. I forget what exactly it was. But when she went to the court, she had a motion to dismiss based on the court lacking proper jurisdiction. Well, she had forgotten to sign it. So when you don't sign a motion, the court doesn't have to acknowledge it. So when she got to court, the judge played her like he's not going to acknowledge it, like everything was proper, but I'm not going to acknowledge this and this and that and this and that. And she even had a recording where he threatened her with contempt of court if she didn't come back with an attorney. Okay, now, as the chief representative of the Moorish Republic, that's my job to protect the nationals of the Moorish Republic the best that I can. And we're not paperwork people. We don't file affidavits and stuff like that. We file motions and memorandums and briefs into the courts, as opposed to, because there's a fight. Just filing that affidavit doesn't mean the fight's over. And that's where most people get stuck. And they think when these people charge them thousands of dollars, hundreds of dollars to file this paperwork for them, and then when they actually get to the courts and that paperwork fails, they're nowhere to be found. They don't have any help for you after you gave them $1,000. Well, and if you do find them, it's, oh, well, you didn't follow instructions. Most of them, they're crash dummying people. So this is my caveat to everyone who's here listening. If a person can't show you evidence that they won a case or saved somebody or anything like that, or if they start talking about, oh, it's private, they don't put that on the record, most likely they're lying to you. Because as I said, I've been to U.S. Supreme Court 6 times, and everything is on the record. So in this instance with Shatika, once she came and told me that, I'm like, okay, well, that's what we're not going to do. We ain't going to threaten my people. So I put together a motion to dismiss. I put together a judicial notice, and I put together a brief or memorandum to go along with the motion to dismiss. And I signed it as well as witness to let them know she's not alone. She's not by herself. And we essentially will try to tear your ass up in here. And we will. So when she filed it, there was no response to it because it was a challenge of the jurisdiction. But it was a challenge in the manner that the judge didn't have to say that he didn't have jurisdiction. It all boiled down to the prosecutor saying that they weren't going to prosecute the case for lack of jurisdiction. So when she got to court the second time with that motion filed, they dismissed the case for lack of jurisdiction. But this was because she wasn't alone. I myself cannot do that for myself. And I'm in Indiana. She's in Tennessee. But this goes to the example as well that they don't follow their own laws. They follow them when they want to. So that's also another reason why we're approaching this situation from an international standpoint, because this is a situation between two nations of people as it pertains to the Moorish Republic. This also goes back to the nationality aspect of the situation. And I've had this conversation with several people. The word indigenous, it is a general term to describe all of the people who originate on that continent. Europeans, they're indigenous to England, France, Ireland, all of those areas. They're indigenous to those areas. But the word indigenous does not necessarily attach you to the land. But yeah, you could be indigenous to North America, but then as well, there are also nations in North America. Those nations have nationalities. This is where the connection comes. The Moorish Republic has a constitution. And now the next things that I'm saying are based on international standards and what is required for the family of nations to recognize another nation as a sovereign state. You have to have a flag, a national flag that everyone says, this is our national flag. You have to have a constitution, which you have to have a constitution for the running of a government that can manage a government. You have to have a territory, a defined territory. If you don't have a territory, then what piece of land are you claiming to be connected to? Uh, and you have to have people. You have to have people. If you don't have people, then if you don't have people of the same mindset, of the same thought process, this is who we are, this is what we are, this is our territory, this is our land, then from an international standpoint, there's nothing. There's nothing. If you go into the world and you can't prove your nationality or show your U.S. citizenship, because everybody else in the world has nationalities. The United States is pretty much the only one that has citizenship because it's a corporation. If you go into the world and you can't identify with a particular nation or corporation, they can do with you as they will. This is real in the world. That's what passports are about. That's passports. You're allowed to pass the ports because you can get to the ports and be denied and turned back. That's what the passport is about. You are allowed to pass the ports. So this is happening in the United States now. They don't have passports from whatever nation that they're from. They don't have permission to come into the United States territory. So with that being said, they are being extradited back to where they came from. And Trump is more or less just playing, let me say, he's playing the hard truth game. This is the hard truth. This is the hard truth. Yeah, you can say, oh, well, the United States, okay, well, they have control of the borders right now. Okay, that's the hard truth. So, but they can't do anything to us. Oh yeah, they're gonna send y'all back. And I've seen a lot of videos out there where people talk about, oh well, they send us back. Y'all next, they're gonna send y'all back to Africa. You can't send me to a place that you can't prove that I come from.
Sure.
You can't just, because see, Africa has nations in it, and they can't just say, oh, well, we're just sending everybody over back to Ghana and Nigeria and Mali and Morocco and all this, and they can't do that. It's not possible. It's not possible from a world standpoint, from a global standpoint, from an international standpoint. That's not possible. So, you know, that's what he's doing. I myself don't necessarily care because it doesn't deal with my people in our situation. And a lot of people might not like that, but that's the hard truth. We're trying to get free. That's what we're trying to get back to, our status as separate from them. They're trying to join them. So that's not our fight. That again that's when people said, okay, they're coming after you next. Yeah, that's the truth of the 14th Amendment, that we aren't U.S. citizens. That's the truth of the matter. Yeah, no, we're not U.S. citizens. And I'm telling everybody, look, they have read my book. I'm on the Homeland Security list. I don't know about nobody else, but I seen myself on the Homeland Security list from a court case that I filed when they first tried to prosecute me, when they first prosecuted me in 2013. That case right there put me on the Homeland Security list. So, uh, all I can say is a lot of this started from Noble Drew Ali. Yes, Mela, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to wait till you finish, and then
No,
I
no,
was
no,
going
go
to
ahead, because
acknowledge. I was
I
just
don't want to keep
preparing.
talking.
Well, okay. You already know, as far as me, we've had many conversations and went over, and so I agree with a whole lot of everything that you say. Um, One of the things with me is, what I've been trying to do, and I know because you remember you said that everybody's, doing their own thing and having their own and what have you, and we have so many. We say hundreds, there may be thousands of groups, okay,
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and tribes and organizations and all of that. I've always felt that if we just network together, because and that network could be, and I guess my mind goes back to what they did with the Confederation, with the tribes. They had all these different groups and tribes and what have you, and then they all came together, but they all came together for a purpose, and their purpose was for the lawsuit. Because they were fighting amongst each other and before that, but they all got together for that one thing, for the lawsuit. And then once they prevailed and they won, then they went back to their to their own whatever again. So I guess that was my mindset. I was coming from that perspective, and I keep thinking, gosh, because you have to remember, I read a minute, you have folks, people are saying there are all kinds of different things, right? Hebrew Israelites and so and this is a hard thing. Some people are in love with the word black. They won't let that word go either. Okay. So they calling themselves everything, and I know and I understand what you're saying as far as the nation. We try, to become a nation, on the international level, and I agree with that, and I really I support that. One of my questions that I have with that is that what is it really going to take? Okay, and I know all the components that you need to have to be as far as for a nation. Okay, actually on the international level is for them to actually recognize you as such. But if we can't even get them to recognize us, because I put a lot of responsibility on us as a people for a lot of things. Financially, we have all the podcast I did about showing all the billionaires that we have here in this continent and in Africa. Yeah, it's 120 billion combined, okay, as opposed to a trillion for them just here in America. However, it's just that we have so much that we can do with each other and for ourselves. And so I know this is a long way, but my question is, what needs to happen? What do we need to do so that we can get together as a people and unite in every form of fashion? But you have to remember, you got different people, so one size doesn't fit all for everybody. But you can network together. That's one thing the Caucasians, that's what they do a lot. They network. That's why BlackRock owns just about everything in the whole planet. Okay, and you check in one place and you find that they're owned by this company, by that company, by that company. By the time you get done, their most of shares are owned by BlackRock. Okay, or Vanguard or some of these other places. Now that's just on the financial end, but this system we have right now that is in place. Okay, so there's a lot we can do with ourselves and for ourselves, and it takes a mindset to change. We got a lot of egos. We got, like you mentioned, about a lot of people want to be out on their own and have their own, but I don't have a problem with people having their own. I just want them to network with everyone. And that's what Noble Scott, when he was here, that was one thing he focused on. So from your perspective, what is the flaw in what I'm trying to do? And other than, like I said, the mindset of folks, okay. And what do you think that is going to take? Because you've been doing this for a long, long time. I've been doing what I've been doing for a long time. So I'm going to give the floor back to you. That's my question. It was long, but that was my question.
Look like you're still muted, Chief Menace.
Oh,
Can you hear me now?
yeah, we hear you now.
Okay. Okay. When we talk about the Europeans and how they network and do what they do, that has always been their ability to unite, to take over something, to control something, to destroy something.
Okay.
Yes, that's the one thing that I can say and have always been saying about the white people. They will all agree on a lie. You could tell a lie quick, and soon as they hear it, they're gonna agree on it, whether it's wrong or right. But as long as it is something that deals with them being in a good or superior position,
Okay.
oh yeah, everybody's gonna indulge in that lie.
Okay.
Such as the United States being built by their ancestors, the founding fathers. Yes, they are always going to unite in the lie when it comes to their superiority. When they damn good as that. For a long time since they came out, they've been good at that. They've been good at pretending not to like each other just to tear someone else up.
True.
So our problem is right now that okay, nationality, a nation requires love for each other. It requires a specific type of love for your nation. This ain't just a group of people that got together. This is a nation, and it requires hierarchy. Every indigenous tribe on this planet has a nationality. They don't just call themselves indigenous. Everyone on this planet except us has a nationality. They don't call themselves indigenous. They don't call themselves aborigines. They don't call themselves any of that. They call themselves by their nationality. We are the only ones who say indigenous. We're the only ones who say black. We're the only ones who say African American. So one of those problems is, okay, now, for example, if and this also goes back to Tecumseh. You look at the warnings that he gave, and yes, they were networking. They were networking. They were trading. They were doing everything that they had been doing for eons. So when it came to that, everybody wanted to do their own thing. In our situation, what I'm finding is I'm still talking to people, warring with people, all of this, all over Facebook, all of this. No one wants to relinquish their position. No one wants to relinquish their position. If and this is me talking to people who are like, oh yeah, well, we did this and did that and did, but okay, can you prove that? No. And I find that people lie about a lot of things that they've done in order to get followers. Everything is about clout now. Everything, even, I mean, You have the people, and it's just like that's what's going on now. It's a financial thing. It's a power thing. You just want to say that you're this. You just want to be the head of this, but you're not doing anything. You just want to say that you're the head of it. Well, what have you done for your people? What have you done for the people who have joined you? What have you done? What are you doing? And most aren't doing anything but sitting back in a temple or wherever they're doing and trying to collect fees for filing paperwork. Yeah, I can sign you up for a couple $100. Well, what? Nationality is free. It's free. And it becomes that type of situation. So they would rather just keep leading people in an odd direction or the wrong direction just to keep their position. Hold on for a second. I got another customer. Hold on.
While you're waiting for Brother Menace, if any of you want to interject in the comments, be my guest.
Yeah, I did have a question for him when he returns.
Okay.
I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah.
This is Boniface.
Hello.
I appreciate what has been shared here, but it's just so sad,
Mm-hmm.
I am saddened, but it's not the first time I've heard it. And I don't want to say anything more until I have a chance to share what I have to share. When is it? The 28th or something?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. I'll wait until then.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay. Looking forward to it.
Okay.
I did notice. I went to the website. It's called AmericanIndian.si.edu. It's the Smithsonian National Museum for the American Indian, and it lists all these treaties on here. It has like the treaty for the Six Nations Treaty, Muskogee Treaty, the Treaty of Fort Jackson, Fort Wayne, and I just, you just realize how there's never been a treaty with quote Black people. Like Menace talked about, we're not a nation. There's never been a treaty with us. That's why we've had declarations, civil rights, all these policies, DEIs, and everything they've given us, they've quickly taken away, and we've had to have another Civil Rights Act of 1866, Civil Rights Act of 1966. If this plan is still here, it'll be a Civil Rights Act of 2066. We've never had any treaty, any ratified treaty, any laws of the land that we've had with this United States corporation that says, this is how we're going to treat these melanated people. This is the rights they're going to have. These are protections they're going to have. We've never had any of that. And so it makes sense to me now why we've always seemed like every decade, whether it's police brutality or employment rights or whatever it is, we're always fighting for rights in this country because we've never had any kind of ratified treaty. We've never had anything in place that said these are human beings and we're going to treat them as such. And it's a shame you have to have a law in place. You can't just live by universal human laws, universal laws to treat people well. But we've never had anything like that, like these Native Americans have had. And it's so, whether it's with this, the Moorish Nation or you know, how we are trying to assert ourselves. We know we are the true and melanated indigenous people in America, on this planet, period, but definitely in America. And I don't need Chat GPT to tell me that. I already knew that. But, you know, just hopefully with all of this that's being exposed, the, you know, continual age of awareness and awakening, we'll be able to enforce our human laws. All right, he's back. I'm going to yield the floor to you, brother Chief Menace, when you're ready. Looks like you're still muted, Chief Menace.
I was listening to what the brother said, and yeah, it's a sad thing. And a lot of people are becoming burnt out on it. They're becoming burnt out on the movement. They're becoming burnt out on a lot of things. Yes, go ahead, Tracy.
Oh, sorry. I was going to ask when you were done with your point. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
When you were done responding.
Oh, okay. Hold on just a second. Well, listen real quick. I'm not going to be on the camera, but listen real quick.
Okay.
A lot of people are being burnt out on the movement because it's more or less a paperwork thing where people are being charged hundreds of dollars. They're being charged hundreds of dollars for things that aren't working, and they don't know anything else. They don't like when in the time of Noble Drew Ali, there was no straw man. There were no trusts. There were no birth certificates. Your birth certificate was saved by your family. The state had nothing to do with your birth certificate.
That's right.
So all of these things are still not necessary to fight if we know who we are. That's the thing. We don't have to fight the straw man. I'm the living man and this and that. If we know who we are, no, I'm a national of the Moorish Republic. I'm not a U.S. citizen, so you can't, you know, it's the same thing. We don't even have to use any of that. But yes, it is sad because even though it hasn't worked, the same people who it hasn't worked for will still keep doing it, I guess, in hopes that something different will happen. Or maybe they'll say, okay, yeah, you're right. You don't have jurisdiction. We don't have jurisdiction over you. Yeah, you're right. And it turns to that type of situation. But yeah, go ahead, Tracy. I was just talking about what I had heard the brother say while I was moving around.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. And when you said that the so-called, I call them the so-called indigenous people, say they don't say indigenous or aboriginal, they say their nation, they say their land. You know, like in Arizona, particularly, there's the Navajo Reservation, Gila River Reservation, Salt River Nation. I'm sorry, excuse me, Navajo Nation, Gila River Nation, Salt River Nation. So the Moorish Republic Nation, which land would that cover? Which land area would you be describing when you say the Moorish Republic Nation?
Everything that is covered by the United States,
Okay.
from New York to California, to the bottom of Canada, to the top of Mexico.
Okay.
We're trying to unite everybody as one nation. That's the thing. If someone else was approaching this from an international aspect as opposed to a commercial aspect or a constitutional aspect, we would be able to network beautifully, because that would be another nation of people who actually knew who they were. Okay, yeah, we chose this flag. This is what we call ourselves. This is our piece of land. So yeah, if they're doing that, yeah, we can network beautifully. But if everything is all about constitutional rights, then it's you can't network with someone who's talking about constitutional rights when you know that the Constitution doesn't apply to us. So that those are two things. That's an oil and water mix. So there has to be some understanding that we are not U.S. citizens. That's one of the things that has to be. Yes.
Yeah, well, I think there's a difference of understanding when I say networking, when other people say networking. Okay. Um, when I say networking, I'm talking about the people helping and sharing and caring and having that unconditional love that we were talking about, that love, but you're saying love for the nation. I'm talking about love for each other. That's that, and that might be they might be a different perspective from the woman's perspective as opposed to a man's. But that's what I'm talking about as far as the networking is that it's just like being a part of a family, which we are, but because of slavery and Jim Crow and all this other stuff they've done to us, and they've stripped us of everything, our language, our spirituality, which what they call religion, but our cultural background, everything, and they've delivered all the European culture to us instead of us, and so they've taken everything, they take so much, and then what we do create and what have you, they, like I said, they create patent houses. But anyway, so all of this to me, when I think in terms of all this, it's just if we just get back to that's when I said it has to be a change in the mindset of people. And that's why, and everything is needed. It's, but what you're working on from your in your sphere, and then and that's why I said sometimes women take a different approach, and that's what we're doing from the matriarch. We're trying to get people, and it's hard. It's difficult because our people refuse to believe that they are mentally unstable. Okay? Majority of our people are mentally unstable, and they refuse to admit that. They don't want to be. They walk around and act like they're healed, and they're not. Okay, and so and it's going to take and just think about it. A lot of our people don't want to be open and honest and communicate. I mean, it just it's like
And
pulling teeth.
yeah, and it's um okay. Okay, okay, if you say if we network like a family, that's fine, but every family still has a hierarchy. From the largest nation on the planet to the smallest family, there's still a hierarchy. So if we continue to move with no hierarchy, no organization, because that's one of the necessary requirements is organization. Yes, we can network, but if no one's organized, you're organized to now. With that being said, the networking aspects, that's where it works in business. Let me say it like that. It works in business. As it pertains to getting free or separating ourselves from them, every way that I've seen, what I can say is almost everything imaginable has been tried, other than straight bloodshed and war. The only other option is the international way. That's the only other option. Because everybody's like, oh yeah, we go to, yeah, but they got all the bullets, they got all the guns. Yeah, we could go to war, but they got all the bullets and all the guns, and they got a lot of our people with them who don't understand who they are. So, and that's the unstable aspect, because a lot of people are like, I don't care. Well, you go on up there, you be the first one to jump it off. And that's how it would end. It would be a quick skirmish with about maybe 50 people, and it's over because everybody's going to die. The rest of our people that cover the United States aren't going to do anything but sit back and watch it on TV. And sit back like, look at these crazy ass niggas. That's what's going to happen. So, because the indoctrination is strong, the indoctrination is strong. So, the networking aspect of it is good as it pertains to business, but as it pertains to freeing ourselves, hold on, it's good, but we have to organize as one mind, one thought, one nation. We have to organize like that, or we're forever going to be in the same position. I got another customer. I'll be right back. I'm listening though.
Okay. Let's hear some other perspectives. Carmela, Janaya?
Floor is
you have
open.
one.
How
Floor
much
is
time do
open.
how much time do we have?
It's actually time's up, but you still have a couple minutes. Go ahead, couple minutes.
Well, I would rather for him to be on because I would like him to hear it because this
He said
includes.
he hears you.
Pardon me?
He said he hears you.
It's very difficult to be in a conversation and listen to someone at the same time. I need his full attention.
Okay, he should be back shortly. He should be back very
All right,
shortly.
well, in the meantime, Sister Carmela.
I was just thinking about what Ron had said about the young men and what COVID had done to them,
Mhm.
and slower and not competent and kind of boys instead of men. And I always like to think about like what did COVID on the movement? Are we getting any young people who are involved, or is it just the same folks who've been pounding? Where are the younger young men and young women?
Yes.
So just wanted to say that. And that's it, Missy.
All right.
Thank you so much. Anyone else that has any questions, comments, or anything you'd like to share? Floor is open.
Well, Janaya, she wants to wait until Menace gets back.
Yes, yes.
So you have one more call to do for the Patriarch.
There's actually a few more. There's going to be the remaining Saturday and Wednesdays for the rest of this month.
Hear me?
Oh, you would ask if this was the last call for this type of podcast?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to have for the remaining Wednesday and Saturdays of this month, we'll have guest speakers.
For this particular subject?
Not necessarily like Chief Menace subject, but for the Patriarch Speaks, what they're coming, what they would like to share with us.
Yeah, it was actually for June was in honor of the patriarchs, the men, the brothers, because Father's Day is tomorrow.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. I always have the question I always like to know the reason why and then the purpose. What were you expecting to, what kind of knowledge were you expecting to gain from doing the Patriarchs call?
I know for myself, I was hoping to hear from fathers because they were also going to speak on manhood and fatherhood. So just getting wisdom, jewels, nuggets from a man's perspective, a father's perspective. We want whatever they wanted to speak on, but yeah, also just getting their perspective, their mind frame on different topics, on different things. That's what I was. That's what I've received, definitely received, and that's what I was expecting for myself.
Oh, okay.
Well, also like look for Brother Menace, you know, I agree with most of the things he says, except there's some things that he knows that I probably don't, you know, not necessarily disagree, but I look at it from a different perspective. Okay, so
Yeah. There he is. He's back.
All right.
Janai, I had a question for you or comment, Brother Menace.
Yeah, it's not necessarily a question. It's just from my perspective. So I just want to commend him on his excellent speech or his talk on the subject of patriarchs. And also, I didn't get a chance to compliment the other two patriarchs that were on because they did share a lot of information as far as their perspective on what a patriarch is or what a man should be. And okay, so like Brother Menace says, the people is we are the government. And as we the people raise our frequency, I always speak about self consciousness because that's where the real problem is. So that as we the people raise our consciousness, everything will fall in place, bringing balance and creating peace here on this earth. The solution, we're not going to find the solution within the system itself, which is what I see is the biggest issue. And you're not going to find a solution in a system that's already corrupt. So the only way to find it is, like I always say, is to go within, focusing on what is true instead of focusing on the lie. Because you're right now, there are many of us, since we have been conditioned, within the system to think that this is the way life is supposed to be, not recognizing that the system actually is only designed, it's a corrupt system, it's only designed to provide us with products and services because when many people are unable to handle their own life and their own affairs. So therefore, by correcting one's own status, one's own, I want to say, misunderstanding, correcting the programming that have been done to us. And I want to say, I guess I don't really want to say done to us, but like I said, the system is kind of set up in a way to only provide us with services and products until we wake up and start to govern our own self. Therefore, that's the reason why I don't want to blame the system for it, because to me, it's like they have put a system to help us until we wake up. Once we wake up, we the people are the ones who will bring the balance to the system. So I guess I want to kind of like not get too deep into that because like I always say, my purpose and my journey is pretty much one and the same. That is to be myself, which is a spiritual being. We are all spiritual beings and we all have innate abilities that we do not recognize. So within a system, it is very difficult to identify ourselves as to who we are when we have been identified as these physical bodies, artificial people, getting artificial remedies into the artificial system. So in order to get the remedy, like I always say, is to go within, which is the creator, ourself, our higher self, which is where the answers are, which would bring balance to the system. So I wanted to commend the men, even though, like I said, they're trying to be men, matriarchs, the leader, the guider within a family. And it's difficult within a system, like I said, because everything is backwards. It is not man's role to be and rule over the woman. Therefore, it has to be balanced where it's an agreement.
She has an internet that goes out occasionally, so she'll be back in a few seconds. So.
I want to say something. Oh,
I'll stop in a minute. That's another terminology, because if you look up, I think it's husband and wife, you find that getting a marriage license, that was something that they did under slavery, where you had to get permission from your master in order to take a wife. And so they're doing pretty much the same thing within the system and under the corporate system, where we get a license and then they have already given you a role, or given people the role, the men the role, as to what they're supposed to do, is ruling over the women, which is really out of order. So basically, that's my perspective, and I could share a little bit more, maybe on another call. I yield. Okay, you had a question?
Floor is yours, Chief Menace.
Brother Mims?
Looks like you're muted.
You muted.
Okay, I'm sorry. It's not necessarily a question more than it is an observation, and it's an observation of the men and the women in the movement. Most, if not all, and I'm gonna start with an example that I watched a video on, and they were talking about the differences between the thought processes of men and women. When men are boys, when there are boys play team sports. Everything about what boys do deals with working as a team. There's a hierarchy. You have the captain of the team, and then you have the different role players who make up the team and win, and they do what they do. Now, that goes all the way through boys growing up into men. If they're playing sports or whatever, it's always about the team. When women are girls, for the most part, because now you got women's sports, basketball, softball, you have all these things going on now. Prior to now, women didn't necessarily play team sports. They played dolls, they played hopscotch, they played jump rope, they played all of these things that were individual things, individual games, jacks. There may have been competition, but it was a competition between individuals as opposed to a team. So when girls grow to women, everything is about the individual. And that is not to say that men rule over women. This is not to say that. But we are brought up with different processes. We are brought up, it may seem subtle, but when you grow, the thought process remains. Men's thought process is about teams. Women's thought process is about individuality and partnership and I can't think of the word I'm trying to say, but it's about everyone doing their own thing. And that's fine. That's fine. But there still has to be some sort of, in a nation of people, every nation of people on this planet has a hierarchy from the smallest family to the largest nation, they all have a hierarchy of government where, okay, there are votes, there's all of this, but everyone can't govern themselves. Everyone can't self-govern. Everyone can't do all these things that some would require us to do. Governments are put together to protect people, not to rule them, not to govern them, not any of that. Governments are put together to protect originally. Now, when you look at the United States model of what's going on, yes, they consider everybody subjects, but you're beneath the government. The government rules you. Prior to that, prior to the United States corruption of the world, it wasn't, there were kings, there were monarchies, and then there were also can't think of the type of government that republics. But it was not necessarily about ruling the people. The people did what they want as long as they didn't violate the laws that everyone came to agree with, because all of the laws and rules were made to protect us from each other, even as well as other nations. Now, the United States, they went overboard with their rules. But again, it's a corporation. Their whole thing is profit and control. Yes, Maylo, you have something to say?
Well, thank you for that, because, now it helps me to understand why, as a child and growing up into now, why I've had such a hard problem, because I was never about an individuality. I was all about teams in my family, all the way growing. And so now it makes me understand, because that was the expectation of me, I guess, as a female, that I'm supposed to be about individual. But I was never like that, ever since a little child. And I had problems in my family. Just people, like I said, and that helps me to understand now, as a person who has to be an overseer of a tribe, why I get some of the responses that I do from some of the different people in my group. So at least thank you for that. Thank you for that.
And this is not to say that women cannot lead. I'll never say that. That's not to say that women can't lead. That's one thing. But I'm speaking on the difference in the thought processes. Now, if we go back to, and I hesitate to use the word roles, but if we go back to traditional roles, man hunter, woman gatherer. Man played his part, woman played her part. Both provide food. When the wars start, the men step out front, because he can't protect the woman if she's standing out in front. This is where the feminist movement confused a lot of women. I'm a strong, independent woman that don't need no man. But could you come and fix my tire, please? But and that's the lie that they pose to everybody. It's not about that was the white women who were mad at their white men for treating them like they treated them. We loved each other. We knew that we were in this struggle together. We knew this.
That's right.
And it didn't matter whether it was man, woman, or child. They was destroying all of us. They was killing all of us. So we knew. We still played the traditional roles. We still had that. And then they broke that up with the feminist movement. Now you have 1,000,001 strong, independent women that don't need a man for anything. And this transfers into the movement. That transferred into the movement. So rather than playing and I don't want to say playing, but moving into the traditional roles. Because yes, it is a partnership. It's a partnership. It definitely is. But there are roles to be played in this partnership. And I'm not saying that women can't be hunters before that turns into a thing. But 99% of the time, it was the men who were the hunters, the women who were the gatherers and the nurturers. So this also goes to the men were the strategists. The men were the ones who fought the wars. And there comes a point where women work on emotions, men work on logic. There comes a point where logic has to override emotion. Logic has to override emotion. So if logic, if emotions ruled everything, and this is scientifically proven to show that women operate on emotions, men operate on logic. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I'm listening.
Oh no, I see your hand pop up.
Well, no, it is. I was going to wait, but you have some very, very strong viewpoints. With regard to things, and it's just interesting to me because a lot of things you say, I actually defy those. So, but that's okay. We're all entitled to our opinion and our viewpoints. Okay. And only reason I am going to, because we've gone way past our time, Brother Midas, I could actually talk to you and listen to you all day,
We have those conversations.
Yeah. So, but we're going to, I'm sorry, we're just going to kind of wind up here. If you just have any last words you want to leave with us, and then we're going to.
Last words.
Yeah.
An organized unity is required for us to get out from under this situation that we are trapped in. I love everybody. I love all y'all, and I respect everyone's point of view. But at some point, we have to stop trying the same thing that has been tried for decades and decades and decades, and look at something new.
Ashe.
I'll leave it at that.
Ashe.
All right. And Brother Boniface, Chief Menace, wanted to let you know he appreciates your presentation. He says, I've experienced many of your challenges as well. Don't be weary of well-doing, and please take care. And we do definitely thank you for your wonderful presentation. And we see that and know that you're very busy. So thank you for taking time out of your day to share with us this knowledge and wisdom. We greatly appreciate you. And we want to thank you all for joining us today. We're definitely continuing on our celebration of fathers and manhood and fatherhood during this month of Father's Day with the Patriarch Speaks podcast. So please be sure and join us this Wednesday, June 18th, 2 p.m. Arizona time, Pacific Standard Time, 4 p.m. Central Standard Time 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as we'll continue on with the podcast. We have a wonderful guest speaker, and we thank you so much again to our amazing Patriarch, Chief Representative of the Moorish Republic Nation, Menace Ankh, another phenomenal patriarch. Thank you to our podcast team, our tribal members who've joined us today. Thank you all for watching, those that will watch this later. And please, everyone, have a wonderful, happy Father's Day, a beautiful day, beautiful week.
Yes,
See you
happy
Wednesday.
Father's Day. Peace and
Thank
love.
Peace and love.
Peace
Peace
and
and
love.
love.
Love everyone.